So Kelly, we both saw Waves this last week.
Yes, we did.
What did you think?
I really, really liked it. I will caveat it by saying I don't think the story was as strong as it could have been.
Yes.
I think the storytelling lacked a little something. There was some finesse there, and a few plot points felt really contrived.
Definitely, yeah.
But the filmmaking itself, I thought the film was very well worth seeing just for the filmmaking alone.
Yeah.
It's about a young man who's descending into drug addiction and alcoholism and all of that kind of stuff, and I felt like the filmmaking took you there with him in a very visceral way. I mean, swirling lights and sounds.
It felt like you were drowning, basically, as well.
Yeah, it had this really visceral, I remember at one point, like, just grabbing the sides of my seat and kind of, because you felt it. Yeah, you just really, really felt it. And I haven't had a film make me do that. I mean, there was one point, you were in the theater with me, that I screamed, and it was just, because it was just
it
was such a shocking moment, and it was, and I felt it so deeply, which I thought was really incredible. I haven't had a film like cut me to the core like that.
Yeah, so to echo some of that, I thought it wasn't the most unique of stories. I thought there were a lot of things that felt kind of like they'd been done in any other teen drama type of movie, but this time it was just the emotions were different for me just because of the way that it was filmed and the way that it just washes over you almost and kind of carries you with it, and then you also get kind of dragged under to continue the waves metaphor.
Yeah, I think my two favorite moments, I think, to kind of demonstrate the way the filmmaking worked and heightened the drama and all of that was the one scene he's arguing with his girlfriend, and he hadn't buckled his seatbelt, and so they're driving, and he's driving faster and faster, and you hear the seatbelt chime in his car, just bing, 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 bing.
Yeah, and it's going with the drama.
And it's this low-level pulse that's reminding you that, like, danger, 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 and you're not sure, is it dangerous because he doesn't have his seatbelt buckled? Is it danger because of he's having this argument? Is it he's going to slam into another car? Like, what is going to happen here?
That moment is almost repeated again later in the movie with a hospital scene.
Yes, I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, and using those sounds and the beeps and all that kind of stuff to like heighten the drama. And then the other moment for me that just, the image is still very striking in my head is his sister and a police car, the main character's sister.
And it's such a normal moment almost.
Yes, but you don't see the police car come by, you just see the red and blue lights hitting her face. And to me, seeing, what's going on in our country with police brutality against African Americans, to just see these red and blue lights constantly reflected on African American faces, to me was just overwhelmingly chilling and a reminder of what's going on in our country right now.
Yeah, and there was nothing even remotely going on in that scene that could indicate that was going to happen, except for the lights on her face. You were like, is this going to go south really fast?
Yeah, and to me, it was just that using that visual, there was nothing else happening. There was just that visual that just, was gut-churning for me. And again, it was just that visceral reaction to a film that's really good filmmaking if just lights on somebody's face
can do that to you.
Can turn your stomach. It's really interesting. I just thought that was incredible.
Almost like the last scene of Get Out. I don't know if you probably
I haven't seen that one yet. Yeah. I keep meaning to.
Because I know you don't like horror films.
Yeah, horror is not my genre.
But it is a very similar moment of ultimate panic just because you see police lights show up and you're not sure what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I also think, so back to the movie, I also think it was very unique and different that this was almost two different movies in one. It felt like it was one contained movie at first. I thought it was over, and then it started on a whole new track, and it just made it this really full whole picture that I wasn't expecting.
And I think comparing Waves to some of the other movies we've seen recently about drug addiction in our country, there have been a lot recently, right? Like, and so comparing this one, I thought the brother getting dragged down by drugs and alcohol, like that was its own self-contained story, but then the second half where it's his sister grappling with what happened and seeing her being bullied because of what happened with her brother, and people assuming things about her because of her brother, and how she grapples with that, and you know, and the things,
her just dealing with her own complicated feelings.
Right, exactly. And I thought, you know, a lot of the films that we've seen coming out about drug addiction in our country have really centered on the drug addict, and if it shows how it impacts the family, it's like it's still centered around the person who's addicted. And I thought this one showing like she is a person in her own right, and she has a life, and like her brother did this to her, but she is more than that. It was a storyline that I don't think I've seen in another film.
I also thought it was really interesting the way that it kind of showed this major contrast between the way that even two siblings can grow up with the same parent. Like, it was just vastly different in the way that these two kids were raised, and it almost led in two different directions because of that.
Yeah. And I mean, I love the relationship between the sister and Lucas Hedges' character. I can't remember his name. I thought it was so beautiful and how they both use their trauma and the drug addicts in their families to heal each other. And I thought that was beautiful. And their chemistry, like, can we talk about their chemistry? Like, it was incredible.
Ultimately, this was a love story, really.
Yeah.
And that's what's so cool about it, is it's all these different things that you don't expect it to be, and then it's also a love story, which is, you know, you don't expect that to be part of all of this, but it was.
Yeah, totally. So I mean, the storyline was both unique, and you know, there were moments where it was contrived and that kind of thing. But like, I think taken as a whole, like, you can critique any movie, right? There are different parts that you would take or add or whatever. But I think taken as a whole, I just thought this movie was really a revelation for me, and I just thought it was just brilliant filmmaking, and the cast, I mean, the acting was just
out of this world.
Yeah, no, exactly. It was so good, and every character, the chemistry.
It felt so real.
It felt so real, and like the dad's devastation when the son was arrested. I mean, like it just. I believed he was his dad. It was just, you know.
I believed that each of them were humans. They didn't feel like one-dimensional characters in any way.
Right.
All of them were complicated and had many different sides to them that was really cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought it was also interesting. There was no one dynamic. The dad was their dad. He was also a husband, and he's grappling with, how do I repair my relationship with my spouse in the midst of this trauma? And so he's a father, he's a husband, he's a businessman. He wears all of those hats at once, and that's what made him so multidimensional. Was you know, he is all these things. The daughter was a daughter. She's the sister. She's dealing with the grief of her parents. She's a high school student. She's falling in love. Like it was really incredible to see such multi-dimensional characters in a film, because normally it's like, there's the dad, he's the dad character.
Right. Even the girlfriend, who is like a cheerleader, she seems almost like a typical like high school girl. She even had multi sides to her. You see her in one scene where she's like being so kind to the sister, and just like you can tell that she's not just this like uptight, typical cheerleader you see in movies.
Nobody was there as a foil for anybody else. Everybody was their own person, and that's what I thought was really, really interesting about the film. Was there's always in movies there's the dad, there's the mom, that character's there so that they can say this to them. You know, there was no character like that. Every character was fully their own person, and I just thought that was a really neat aspect of the movie.
Right. So I hope that our conversation gets some people to see this movie.
Yeah, it's such a great movie, yeah.
So Kelly, I know that part of the reason we're talking about this is because we saw it and not a lot of people are seeing it.
Yeah, we're not seeing a lot of numbers here at the theater. We're not, I mean, at the box office, it's not performing incredibly well, which, I think you'll agree with me. I think it's kind of a tragedy because it's such a wonderful film. It's such an interesting, complex, great film. And so I really...
And there's enough there that even if you don't like some parts of it, you're still there's so many other things to take from it.
Yeah. So I hope everybody will come out and see it. If not at Old Greenbelt Theatre, I hope folks will find a way to see it. I think it's really great filmmaking and it deserves to be seen.
As you were telling me, we might be able to see it on the library app.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. We'll see.
We'll see when it comes out.
Yeah. We'll see. Yeah, but I mean, anything A24 puts out, I feel like is really worth seeing. They're a great studio. I think they really think about the content they're putting out, and it's always wonderful filmmaking or a great story, or it's just all their films really deserve to be seen.
A24 is one of these studios that I think is just putting out it's putting out the greatest films in every genre, and almost redefining genres in the meantime.
Yes. I mean, they're the studio behind Lighthouse. They're the studio behind
Midsummer.
They're the studio behind Last Black Man in San Francisco, which is one of my favorite movies this year.
8th Grade.
Yeah.
The list goes on and on.
Yeah. No. I mean, I'll be honest. When I hear we're getting an A24 film,
I want to see it because of the studio almost.
Yeah. So I think they're really careful at curating films. So if you hear it's from A24, it's going to be good. Yeah. So I really hope folks will come out. Well, we're going to run it through Thursday, so we hope folks will come out in the evenings. It's a great movie, but if you can't see it here, please see it somewhere because I really loved it.
Well, thanks, Kelly.
Thank you, Phoebe.